Ever since the return of LEGO Lord of the Rings in 2023, people have been asking for more sets and cheaper Lord of the Rings sets. And today we finally got that kind of. This is the Balrog, part of a new series LEGO is doing called the Book Nooks, meant to be displayed like on a bookcase or similar. This is set number 10367 containing 1,201 pieces. This is the Balrog. Back of the box shows what I'm talking about here, how it's meant to be displayed like on a bookshelf there. Comes with Gandalf as a minifigure, and of course the main build is the Balrog itself and the little Book Nook section. Welcome into Old Mountain Bricks, everybody. What we're going to do today is a quick time-lapse speed build of the set. I'll give you my thoughts on the build process, as well as the set overall. So let's go ahead and get started. I was really intrigued when they announced this set, especially as a Book Nook. It seems kind of a strange way to do this kind of set, but I'm excited to give it a go. So as we cut open the box, inside you will find plastic bags. Of course, there are 9 individually numbered plastic bags, a piece of vinyl, a little whip, and the instruction manual. Getting started with the build, you pour out all the pieces here, of course, and you start with the main frame, or what I'm going to call like the Book Nook section of it. So it's a lot of gray, a lot of these like orange pieces as well. Uses a few things of Technic to kind of keep some nice structure to it, but I thought it was a little bit repetitive because you kind of build the middle, but then you make these 2 wings or like the book parts of it there, and they're basically just mirrored, and that's a little bit of a boring build process. It's not often I'm disappointed by the build of a set, but this one really did. It was just kind of boring and nothing really surprised me about it. And because of how symmetrical it was, you kind of did the same thing a number of times. You knew what was coming, and I wasn't surprised by any Easter eggs or anything like that. I think there's like one silver stud in the very back there, which I don't really know the meaning behind, but other than that, really nothing hidden inside or anything else like that. But you then get started with the actual Balrog, which I was really looking forward to after making all of that and those flame pieces. But it's really just all these black pieces which blend in a lot on the table, and it makes it a little bit harder to kind of find what you're looking for. But it's basically your average construction figure. Nothing really stood out about it. I liked using the different like flame colored pieces in here. Last thing you do is assemble the wings for the Balrog. Of course they are mirrored as well, but it's a lot of Technic, which I haven't really done in a while, and it was a little tedious to put all of that together. But let's go ahead and finish this thing up, put the little whip in his hand, slap those wings on there, and take a look at the finished product. And here is the Balrog Book Nook from Lord of the Rings. Getting started with it, it was an intense build here, a little repetitious, as most of the pieces go into this little, I guess we'll call it the Book Nook part of it, kind of creating this frame for it. Of course, the rest of the pieces then going into the Balrog itself. There are a number of printed pieces. There are no stickers in this set. You have the quote down here. It says, "You shall not pass," from Gandalf the Grey. And then the face of the Balrog, these 2 pieces right there, are also printed. There's also these vinyl pieces, kind of for the wings, and those look pretty neat. I like that they have the extra holes in them as well, even though I think they're a bit more technical by having those in there. They get the job done. And just another quick look at that vinyl piece that came with it. It's like a plasticky thing. It's the same wings that were used on the Fell Beast, aka like the Nazgul riding gift with purchase that came with Barad-dûr. So they just reused those same wings there. With this being part of the new series of the Book Nooks, this thing is meant to go on a bookshelf, so you could close this whole thing up like this, and it does kind of clip together, so then you can see it just like this. So it's kind of like a book in a way. I think there are actual clips. No. So no, it does not actually clip together, but you can see as I rotate it around some more of the details on the outside of some of the flame pieces. They did a good job putting lots of extra tile work around it as well, so there's no extra studs showing really anywhere other than kind of in some obvious places. Same thing from the top, it's all tiled off up top. The Balrog is kind of fixed in spot, but not in the way you think here, so that way when you open it up, it can open. But I, at least when I've done it, have had that same issue. He's not connected to the floor. He has these 2 little Technic pieces back here that you can kind of slide his wings into. But if you open the Book Nook a little too wrong, he kind of falls over. The wings also can go in these little holes on each side, so that way they open and close as you do that. But taking the Balrog out, you can kind of see a bit more of the details. These were kind of fun to put together. Kind of uses like those Doctor Strange portal pieces in order to get those flame details. The instructions also say that this is meant to be dark, but because of the fire, they use like these like orangish pieces in order to simulate like the fire like they did kind of in Barad-dûr as well. And here's just a quick shot of the leftover pieces on this set. And of course, the star of the show is Gandalf the Grey here. He does come with his sword and his staff. He does have nice printing on the front and the back of like his skirt dress piece. And then it's the same face that we got before. So nothing new here, but still a nice figure to have. But if you look at the Balrog on its own, it's pretty interesting. I hate building with a lot of black Lego pieces because you get fingerprints all over them no matter how clean you keep your hands or try and wipe it down. So that's always a little annoying. And it makes it a little bit hard of a build process because it's just literally all black pieces other than a few flame pieces that you can see there. He can articulate just a little bit, but not much. His arms can kind of move around and his legs kind of use like the mech features with like the big ball joints on the sides here, so it can do that. The wings, of course, can open and close like with the Book Nook, but it's hard to kind of balance them a little bit. But, you know, he can do a little jig and a dance there, but he's a little tedious and fragile there, so you wouldn't want to use this as like a play set type thing. So I can see why they put it in as a Book Nook rather than doing it as a actual like play scale mech. But when you look at the rest of the pieces of this set and how much this thing costs, most folks just really want the Balrog out of this. They don't want all of these stone pieces and flame pieces. They just wanted the Balrog. So, I don't know. I can see why they did it as a Book Nook, but I don't really like the way that this was executed. And you can see some of the technique of the wings on the back here as well, so they can kind of fold in and out and kind of move around and everything. He does have a nice tail, of course. He does have his nice like fire whip here that has like a Wolverine claw at the end, kind of in that like flame orange color. To my point, if they would have released just this as a set, you know, just the Gandalf minifigure and the Balrog for, I don't know, let's say like $70 or $80 instead of the $130 that this thing goes for, I think it would have sold a lot better and folks would have still gotten a similar experience out of it. But instead, we get this whole thing over here that, like, let's say I were to put this in my Lego City, what would I do with the majority of the pieces that came in this set? Like, I don't know, it just seems like a bit of a waste. I like how it looks. They put a lot of detail into making like the rock work and the pillars and everything. But at the end of the day, the folks really just kind of wanted this. Especially if this is meant to represent Khazad-dûm and like the bridge and everything. I mean, I know the bridge is pretty thin, but it leaves a lot to be desired. They could have made this more like a diorama. I've seen some pretty cool mocks of folks doing that, kind of changing it up, using these same two characters here, but then making an actual diorama like Star Wars has done for a few things instead of like this Book Nook, and just using these same pieces to make it a little bit better and a little bit more presentable, instead of just having it as something that can sit on a bookshelf. And here's just a quick look at your average bookshelf here. When you put the Book Nook on it, you got Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter hanging out here, and again, with this set, because it's so dark, I mean, you really can't see it. I mean, it kind of blends in pretty well, but unless you get up here and actually take a look at it, you wouldn't know what this is. So I don't think it's a great version of a Book Nook and would have looked better in a different version. Of course, if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan and you just want to display this with like your Lord of the Rings books or the Hobbit books, you know, it could be worth doing. But I do think LEGO missed the mark with this just a little bit. It's way too expensive for what it is. We've been wanting cheaper Lord of the Rings sets ever since they've kind of come back in the last few years instead of like the super $500+ sets. We finally get a cheaper one, but it's still not really what folks want. And I hope this is a nice learning opportunity for them. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, so I wanted to pick this up. I haven't picked up Barad-dûr, and I haven't picked up the Shire, but I have Rivendell. It's cool to have for like that kind of perspective, but I would not recommend picking up this set unless you just are really big Lord of the Rings fan, or wait until it just goes on sale. Because this does not feel like 1,201 pieces, especially when the main thing you're looking at is basically just a construction figure. I mean, they just did the Galactus construction figure, which was still pretty expensive at like $60, but that came with 4 other minifigures and such there. Check out that review. But
it's kind of similar, except that's a lot cheaper and kind of a similar type thing, but instead we have all these extra pieces. But that's just my opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below here of what you think of this set. Is this just kind of a waste of all these extra pieces? Are you really excited for this new Book Nook series? I think some of the other ones are a lot better than this, like the Sherlock Holmes one and the Harry Potter one. Leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to Old Mount Brick so you don't miss even more content coming your way. And until next time, thanks for coming by today. Have a good one.